Hello and welcome to another episode. This time it's June's Paranormal Roundtable. Welcome along to Mike Earl, Paramike on socials.
Hello.
How are we doing?
I'm not bad.
Cool.
Can't complain.
Lovely heat we're having.
Yeah, for someone who spent some of my life in Australia, I bloody hate it being this hot.
Oh, I love it.
That's my head in. I've climatised to the UK weather. I'm just like, no, thank you.
When did you come over to the UK?
When I was 9. So
And how old are you now?
Quite old. quite a while ago. More than one decade ago. So
okay. So you're in your 20s then?
Yeah, exactly. Just turned 20.
And we are joined again as well by Michaela. Michaela's from Paranormal or What podcast. Friend of the show, as is Mike. And so how are you, Michaela?
I'm very well. I'm very happy and giddy. Thank you very much.
It's all that wine.
No. Yes. Can I just say for the record, I'm not a huge lush, just a small one. No, I did have a glass of Prosecco earlier and it made me want another glass. So I'm having one.
Why not? Why not? And we've got Ash. How are you, Ash? Friend of the podcast.
Friend, more than a friend.
Definitely. How are you doing, Ash? Long time no speak.
Yes, I'm very well. Enjoying the rain up in Manchester. It's not stopped for about 3 days. So
wow, it's blue skies outside where I am.
Me too.
I expect I'll be getting Mike's thunderstorm soon.
Yeah, it's been terrible all weekend.
It's been lush. We had rain, but it's been really nice. Can't complain. Really nice.
It's been nice. I like the rain. It's been nice to lay in bed, listen to it, and watch the thunder and the lightning.
Especially after it's been so hot, it's nice that it's sort of calmed down a bit.
Clears the air.
We had a massive bang of lightning. I thought it hit the roof or something. It was that loud. It was just after a flash as well. Massive. Never heard anything like it. I was like, fuck, that sounded like it hit the roof or something really, really close. And then got on Facebook a bit later. The lightning had hit a street light.
Well,
Oh, wow.
A couple of streets away, and the fire engine was there. Like, just literally hit the street light. And that's what must have been what we heard. It was bloody loud. It was loud. Absolutely crapped my pants.
I've got a fact about that.
Okay,
Not about crapping your pants. But, when I was growing up, they'd say, listen for the thunder, see the lightning, then count. And when the thunder, every second was a mile. It's wrong. It's every 5 seconds is a mile.
Oh, really?
so it's a lot closer.
Because the speed of sound is like 300 metres per second or something like that. 308 metres per second. So 5 seconds is 1,500-ish metres, which is a mile, roughly.
Can I stop you there? This is getting a little bit too scientific for a paranormal podcast, I'm afraid. Talking about the speed of sound and the speed of light.
But isn't science the way forward?
Depends who you speak to.
But can't computers not make a random number?
They can't.
Let's not have that conversation again. Sorry.
Yeah.
I've just seen a massive flash of lightning outside my
Deja
window. That's
vu.
why I was like,
1, 2, 3, 4.
there you go.
Oh,
thunder.
yeah.
Just
So
about
it's
a mile away. Then.
Wow.
You're
It's like
welcome.
you orchestrated it.
You're welcome.
Sound effects and everything included.
So, getting back to the show, we're going to talk about a bit of a hot topic at the moment, Ouija boards. But it's been a bit of a hot topic across the paranormal community for 100 odd years since they were first patented over in America and currently owned properly by Hasbro, which in itself is kind of weird. And you can go into Walmart and buy a Ouija board in the kids' toy section, which again is a bit weird. But there are people that don't believe in it. There are people that do believe in it. I've used a Ouija board on many paranormal investigations. People say it's your subconscious mind moving it, which it could be. Other people saying it's a spirit world. And it was used as a parlour game way back in. We done an episode on the Ouija board, and it was used as a parlour game back in the day. And people used to have parties and come round and just try and communicate with the dead, or whoever it may be, until a particular film came out in the 70s, 73, I believe it was, which changed the face of Ouija boards forever. And that film, Ash, was
The Exorcist.
So up until that point, thanks for the special effects, up until that point, it was a parlour game and people used them for non-evil conversations with the dead. And after that time, it propelled it as this opening of a portal to the weird dimension, and devils were coming through and the Antichrist and everything. So whilst The Exorcist put Ouija boards on the map again, I think, for a lot of people, it also sort of cemented its evilness, for want of a better phrase. So it'd be interesting to hear if you guys have had any personal experiences with Ouija boards. We can discuss what we think might be happening, and what we think is a tool, and how useful they are on a paranormal investigation. So, Michaela, what do you think? Have you had a paranormal experience with a Ouija board?
Yes, I have. When I was much younger. Before I tell you this story, I just want to say that since these experiences that I'm going to tell you about when I was at college, I didn't touch a Ouija board for many, many years because it did really quite freak me out, this experience. And since I have used Ouija boards as part of paranormal investigations, which I don't do willingly myself. I don't like to take along a Ouija board. I don't have a Ouija board myself. I have been drawn into using them at paranormal investigations, and I've not really seen anything impressive, to be honest. However, when I go back to, I was at college in Hull, and I think it was me. I'd done it at school, in the art cupboard at lunchtimes, and we'd fashioned our own out of a big piece of card and a glass. And that had been quite fun until everybody got caught one day when I was off ill, and then they all said they weren't going to do it again. So then when we were at college, I was about 19, and I do think it was me again who went, "Oh, wouldn't it be great to make a Ouija board?" Because we thought our house was haunted. Our student house was an old terraced house. And so we made one. It was an A1 piece of thin card. We wrote everything out on it, and we used an upside down glass, a small glass, and it worked really well. And we got quite obsessed. I mean, being students, we were drinking quite a lot. So every time we came home from the pub, we'd go, "Let's get the Ouija board out," and then we would. There might have been other substances involved as well. And it got to the point where we got extremely obsessed with it, and we were doing it every single night because we were getting such good responses from it. And it used to go really fast, faster than I've ever seen anybody else on a Ouija board. It would go so fast that you could hardly keep your finger on the glass. The next thing we did was we decided that every time we were going to do it, because it was coming through with all this stuff, we would have a secretary. So we used to have a secretary. So somebody would sit and write down what the Ouija board said every time. And then we started to wonder, well, could it, even though it's going really fast, could it be somebody pushing it? So what we did was we put neat washing up liquid on the bottom of the glass, as in on the top of the glass. So our fingers would be resting on washing up liquid, which was then in contact with the glass. So it was physically impossible for anybody to push it. And still, it just went whoosh, 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 really fast. The things that were coming through made sense. Apparently, we were speaking to this spirit called Carla, and it got to the point though where this Carla person started saying quite horrible things. It started off really fun, and and as you do when you're a student, you could predict, what colour pants has so and so got on, and it would say they've got these colour on, and it was hilarious. And then it started saying that one of let's call two people Sarah and Bob. So Sarah had a secret crush on Bob, and Bob didn't know this. Sarah didn't say anything except for to us. And the Ouija board started saying, Sarah loves Bob, Sarah loves Bob, Sarah loves Bob. And of course, then Sarah was really embarrassed. And then it started saying, Sarah kill Bob, Sarah kill Bob, Sarah kill. And at that point, we went, whoa, this is just getting too freaky now. And she started saying that she was going to hurt us. And we just knocked it on the head and we didn't do it. And then I didn't do it anymore then for another maybe 18, 20 years. But that experience lasted for months in the house that we were in. It was over a very long period of time, and I defy anybody to have been able to push that glass so fast with the washing liquid on the top. Since then, I've never seen anybody convincingly use a Ouija board, in my opinion. And if I was asked, I would say no, I don't really feel that they are a very good tool for paranormal investigations. But I wouldn't diss anybody who used them, because if they really like them, then that's their business.
Well, that's pretty wild, especially at the end. Whilst these conversations were taking place over the course of the time you're doing it, was there any other sort of paranormal occurrences happening at the same time, or was it just solely connected to it?
In the house?
Okay.
Yeah. Nothing extreme. Things like doors opening and closing by themselves. We had knocking. All of us separately heard our names being called at various times in the house. So my bedroom was upstairs, and there were 3 bedrooms on the ground floor. 2 bedrooms on the ground floor. So I might be upstairs and I'd hear a voice go, Michaela. And I'd go, what? What? Who's calling me? Are you calling me? No, I haven't said anything. That sort of thing. The weird things that went on in my bedroom were that I did have bangs on the floor. I had a mattress on the floor. Sorry, have I done something funny again?
Is that to do with the paranormal, though, or is that just student life?
I was not banging on the floor. But it was like somebody was banging the floor right next to my head in the middle of the night. And I had posters on the walls in my bedroom with blue tack holding them on. And I used to have a little heater. And when I put the heater on, the blue tack would melt and the posters would fall off the wall. And they made a very particular noise, a kind of a whooshing, like whoosh, as they fell off the wall and fell on the floor. And sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night when the heater wasn't on, and I would hear the whoosh of a poster falling, and I'd switch the light on and nothing had fallen off. But the freakiest thing was that I had a hi-fi stereo next to my bed, and that would sometimes come on in the middle of the night by itself. So there were various bits and bobs.
When you stopped using the Ouija board, did that stuff stop, or did it carry on, or was it an ongoing thing anyway?
In all honesty, I couldn't tell you, because this was in 1989 to 90. It's quite a long time ago, so it becomes a bit sort of blurred, that bit. So I don't know, but we moved out not long after that, to be honest. But I think we still lived there a while after. after the Ouija board, but I'm not sure if the activity carries on or not. I can't remember.
Cool. Mike, about you? Have you had personal experiences, or is it something that you use on your investigations?
I don't touch them. I've never touched them. Greg's already shaking his head because he's probably heard this 100 times. No, don't touch them. Haven't ever touched them. I think it was one of those things that when I first got into paranormal investigating, I was a bit like, ooh, Ouija board's evil. Because I didn't really know a great deal about it. And then as time's gone on, I have never really seen anything that compelling in terms of people using them. And the sort of logical side of my brain goes, well, it's the idiomotor effect. And it's just people's subconscious. And like Michaela was saying about, say, there's a person in the room called Sarah and she's told the people on the board that she loves Bob. Well, them knowing that can influence the way it's going, right? So unless it's coming up to conclusions without any prior knowledge of whatever question it's answering, then I think you have to throw it out. There's also a lot of stories about like where people have been blindfolded and all of a sudden the Ouija boards basically don't work anymore, and then it's some like people in the paranormal community have got all manner of excuses to, oh well, they can't see it or whatever, you know, spirits can't see it. But no, I've never used one. I do, weirdly, somewhat recently, I've started to feel like the pull to be like, oh, maybe I should use one just to see what it's actually like. But I don't know. I don't think I can be bothered. I don't think even if I did use one, I'd probably feel a bit icky about it. But also, I don't think anything that compelling would happen. The only thing I can say in recent memory where one was used that was quite interesting was some friends were doing a board at a hotel down in a place called Portland, off the coast of Weymouth, and the board was basically coming out with gibberish, like none of the letters making any sense. And then I said something in German. I can't remember what exactly it was. I think it might have been like, are you a woman or something? And it immediately went to yes, and then seemingly started to answer somewhat correctly when I was saying things in German to it, which was compelling because I don't know if the people touching the board knew German. And this wasn't necessarily the board, but what I started trying to do was basically have a secret word that the people not touching the board know, but the people touching the board don't, and then saying, if you're with us, can you spell this word out? And the word at the hotel was smelly. Now, we didn't get the word smelly on the board at all, but afterwards, once they decided that what was on the board wasn't human, which is another discussion entirely, once they decided that, we put the Alice box on, and one of the first words to come out of it was smell. We were all like, again, like out of 1,600, 2,000 words to come up with something that's near on definite. It's very odd. But yeah, I've not seen anything massively compelling with Ouija boards. And like we've said before, you need to use them with people that you really, really trust. Like there is almost no point in using one on a public investigation because you don't know who's on it, and it could be someone who, because they're bored because nothing's happened and they're having a bit of a quiet night, they decide to start pushing it around and going, oh my God, look, it's spelling my name. You know what I mean? You just can't, you can't take it as any form of activity.
I've used them on a public investigation, and to me it just felt daft because there was like 3 groups in the same room. There's like 6 or 7 on each Ouija board, and nothing was happening with ours, but it seems to be happening to the other groups. I was just thinking, like, if there is a spirit in here, say there's one spirit that can use the Ouija board, how is he choosing which one to respond to? You've got 3 people in one room, and we were only probably not even 10 foot from each other. Like we could hear them asking questions and hear their answers and stuff. It's like, I just felt a bit like, one, there's too many people doing this. There's too many people in here. And there was someone that could manipulate the Ouija board. He's got 3 different things he could be using. He's just going to pick one. He's going to flip between the 3 different ones, or maybe answer someone's question on someone else's board because he's got that option too. He just felt a bit daft to be doing it that way. Just all together.
Which would be more interesting if you had 3 people on boards and then one person asking questions for all 3 boards to see what answers you got, or to segment the people so they can't see each other. So if they start getting the same answer, you could maybe say there's something in it. But if one person says, or one board says yes and one says no, you'd be like, well, this is bollocks, because unless it's a very confused spirit or whatever, you know, like, I mean, you can make excuses for anything in that sense, but I think that would be the way to test it. Or I'm sure Greg's had a story before where he said about what colour of my socks when he wasn't touching the board. Go on, Greg.
No, so that that was with a different paranormal group, and they were doing like their crystals that they were holding up, and when everybody was facing each other and the questions, they were getting proper responses like yes and no's or whatever, however they interpreted it. But I got them to turn their backs to me and then ask them, have I got grey socks on? And nobody, the answers were very mixed. There was yeses and no's. So I think I've not seen a convincing one as well. I've had an experience at the Ram Inn where the Ouija board seemed to get knocked from underneath. Again, didn't know anybody else around the table as such, so you don't really know. But I've never actually seen one in the flesh, as it were, where it's been convincing to me. I like the idea, Michaela, where you'd almost tried to make it impossible. Well, you did make it impossible for somebody to affect it, because that can rule out the whole subconscious thing, somebody faking it. And like Mike said, you need to have people round the board that you trust. If you had somebody, some random, you don't necessarily know what their motivation is. But I've never seen one that's convincing, really.
I think another great question, or another great line of questioning you can go down as well, and I've used this when people are doing like the human pendulum or whatever, which I don't believe in the human pendulum. That's suggestion in the subconscious. But it's in the way you word the question, and it's, say if someone's using the board and you go, okay, spirit, if you're with us, can you spell my middle name? I don't have a middle name. So if that spells anything, it's like, well, that's bollocks, because I don't have a middle name. And if it was actually some grand consciousness, it would know and wouldn't move, right? Or like I've done it with Patsy, where I've been like, while we were doing the human pendulum, I'm like, okay, is Patsy's sister's name Sarah? Patsy doesn't have a sister. So it's like asking those questions that if it is human manipulation, they will go, it's 50-50 whether they go yes or no. But if it goes yes or no, it's going to be wrong either way, right? You know, I suppose, again, you can argue away by going, oh, no, her name's not Sarah because she doesn't exist. But you know what I mean? Like, it's still an answer as opposed to just remaining neutral and going, I shouldn't be able to answer this question.
Yeah, I think you need to be able to think carefully about the questioning, like you say, Mike, to ensure that you're not leading the people, that you're getting an answer that you can verify as being correct, that people won't necessarily know. Like middle names is a good one, because chances are you might know your friend quite well, but you might not know their middle name, or it's unlikely you'd know a random person's middle name.
Yeah.
And they're unlikely to know.
As I say, I like to use it as like a trick question where there isn't an answer, because middle name, for instance, for me, there isn't an answer because I don't have a middle name. So if I go, what's my middle name? And if it spells out Jeff, it's like, well, this is you guys pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, And then inevitably someone on the table goes, "Oh, my dad's middle name's Jeff." You're like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
they do a connection.
of course."
I think it would be really interesting if you sort of designed an experiment. I mean, you can't do anything too scientific with a Ouija board, I don't think, because it depends on too many factors. But if you designed an experiment where you made up some very particular questions, and then you did the experiment with lots of different people at lots of different times, but asking the exact same questions, and then try and compare the data, what comes out of that, then you might be able to have some findings of some sort. But unless you did that, I don't really see how you can measure it.
True, because even if you're in the same place using the Ouija board on different nights, everybody's asking different questions or versions of the similar question. So yeah, that's actually really a really good idea.
And
Maybe that is something that
could be done.
Needs to happen. It's quite a straightforward thing to do as well, and I don't see why.
Yeah, but I think you'd have to do it multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I don't think that. I think that people sometimes, and I think everybody at some point is guilty of this, is that people want it to work so much that they make a lot of excuses for it. Like you said, oh yeah, my dad's cousin was called Jeff and he passed away 5 years ago. And you make these connections that are really tenuous because you really want it to work. And you almost convince yourself that that can only have happened because spirits are coming through on the Ouija board. Because people used to say to us quite a lot, when I first started investigations, oh, well, you do get some naughty spirits and they don't tell the truth on the Ouija board, especially if you have, darker entities coming through. They'll pretend to be your auntie, and then they'll start messing with you. And there's all these excuses that people use to kind of try and explain away why things aren't exactly as they want them to be on the Ouija board. And then it starts getting a bit dodgy.
Not to go into another... Sorry, Greg. Not to go into another rant, but there's an awful lot of experts in the paranormal, aren't there? Who seem to know, this, that, and the other. And it's like, yeah, well, I can't dispute what you're saying because no one fucking knows whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, then. Sorry, Greg, carry on.
No, I was going to say, kind of like on that vein, really, that it's the same with everything in the paranormal world, really, that there are reasons why things aren't happening again, or why. So there's one that I see a lot, and somebody will put a picture up on a Facebook group and say, "What can you see?" Somebody go, "Oh, I can see like an elderly lady and a small child," and they go, "Oh yeah, that's my auntie and whoever." And then I'll go, "Where can you see it?" Because I can't see it. And then loads of people were going, "Yeah, I can see a dog." And I'm like, this picture must be rammed full of people that nobody can see. And they're like, "You're not a believer, so you can't see it."
I was going to say that
people can pick up on everything. And I know people can pick up on stuff, and I'm very closed-minded to a lot of stuff. But I just think, well, explain to me where I'm trying to see it, and I'll have a look. And they go, "But it's not there. You've got to feel it and see it." And it's like, okay, but why is everybody seeing different stuff then? It goes back to the Ouija board thing. Surely if this one spirit was there, then whatever question you asked, every different group should get the same answer. And what they should do with the 3 Ouija boards in one room, for example, like with you, Ash, is somebody... You partition them off as such, but you ask them the same question, but they don't know what question they're being asked. Like the other groups don't know what question the other ones are being asked. So you could actually do it so that people have the different questions. You all have the same set of questions, but different questions at a time, because then nobody can be influenced by the question being asked on the other group. So
on kind of the flip side to that, and sort of kind of going off what Michaela was saying about maybe like a trick where it can trick you with the answers and stuff. where you said that, Greg, where you said that if you're asking the same questions and there's one spirit, then surely you should get the same answers. But if I was the spirit and you were maybe in a place that gets a lot of paranormal tourists and paranormal groups coming in, and they come in night after night asking the same questions, I'd be like, I can't do this again. Like, and maybe if there is a spirit there and he's a bit bored of the same questions, he might have a bit of fun. I'll throw out some random words, random names, just to. I mean, if he's stuck here for eternity in one room or in one building, and then he keeps getting these groups coming, saying questions, he might be having a bit of fun, so he might get different answers on kind of that side of it.
But again, you're explaining it away. And
Yeah.
this is a wider problem with the paranormal, that where everyone's got their own interpretation of it, nothing's ever going to be correct. And you can see this with people get really, really compelling activity, and then there'll be people who go, oh no, it's this, or people get, like Greg was saying, dog shit, air quotes, evidence that isn't evidence whatsoever, and they're going, oh, I can see XYZ in this. And that's the biggest issue, where it's such a belief-based thing and so down to interpretation. Like, you can't argue with it because it's a belief, and you can't really argue with people's interpretations either, because that's how they perceive something. It's like listening to a song, and the lyrics can mean totally different things to two people depending on their state of mind, essentially. So yeah, it's pretty futile what we're doing, to be honest with you, because we're never gonna actually get to the bottom of anything.
So do you think it's actually a useful tool? Is it as useful as anything else to use on an investigation?
Me?
Anybody throwing it out of the room?
Yes, in the sense that nothing can be proven. No, in the sense that humans are very bad at everything.
So I went on an investigation with Mike on New Year's Eve, and we actually set up a Ouija board in the corner of a room with the planchette just on one letter, and left it there all night to see that if, when we came back or throughout the evening, whether or not it had moved. Because that should be how a Ouija board works as well. Why does it need a person to put their finger on it?
For energy.
For energy. But if you've got fairy liquid on it,
I don't think that fairy liquid's an insulator, though.
What is energy? And I'm sorry to put you on the spot, because this is a question I can't answer either, but someone made a very poignant point that people in the paranormal talk about energy all the time, and build the energy. Fuck's energy. There's so many applications.
In atoms, isn't it?
Is it?
Like energy, yeah. When they split if you split the atom, you can create a huge explosion. There's energy everywhere. I mean, I don't know if it's the same energy, or if there's lots of different energies, or there's energy in electricity, there's energy in gas. But it's all energy. Just because we can't quantify it doesn't make it less meaningful.
That's fair.
In my humble opinion.
No, you're absolutely right. And I didn't really know about the atom splitting thing, or think about it in that sense. It was more that when people talk about energy in terms of the paranormal, and it's like, well, there's a lot of things that can be applied to.
In my head, it's all the same thing.
Like you've just said, you can apply it to a lot of things.
Because energy can't be, what's the word?
Destroyed.
Energy. Sorry?
Destroyed, right? It's transferred. It can't be destroyed. It can only be transferred from.
Why can't it be transferred around other things the whole time? That's just my little brain.
On the plus side, sort of an argument for Ouija boards, who've been a bit against it the last 10 minutes or so. I think I talked about it before, but we used it in the basement of my building, which I spoke about quite a lot. And again, we were with people who trust and know that the people I was with aren't going to be messing around with it. And the only time, because I've done it quite a few times down there, there's only once we sort of had any kind of intelligent responses where we've actually got kind of words being formed and letters joining up. And the information we managed to get, pretty cliche, but we were speaking to a little girl, about 8 years old, who died in a fire. So, okay, quite cliche in the world of like little girl ghosts and things like this, tragic death. But then my brother, who's at the complete other side of the basement, could be kind of, he didn't really want to get involved, so he was way away. And you know how big my basement is, Greg.
It's huge.
And we were talking quietly, so we couldn't have heard what we were talking about. And we heard him walking back in towards the room. And then a few minutes later, he said, I stood over there, I could smell smoke. Like, it sounds like, well, people smoke cigarettes and stuff. He's like, no, it wasn't like cigarette smoke, it smelled like smoke, like something was burning. Obviously, it could be completely nothing to do with it, but we had only minutes earlier, I talked about this little girl died in the fire, and he was getting the smell of smoke, like probably 50 metres away or something in the basement. So it's kind of a little bit weird. And then when we've done some more research into the building, because the basement is so weird, and
it's very weird.
It's outside, but it's inside in the basement. It's all weird. And we have discovered that, I don't know about this building, but the building right next, because we're like on the corner of a street, so we're not the same road, but we are kind of connected to it. Half of this street was destroyed in the bombings in the Second World War. So this building could have been one of the buildings that got destroyed and then rebuilt. And that would make sense for how the basement looks. Because it's like they're built on top of it. It's like they're built on top of an existing outside
like it's
house.
got a building inside. It's like a door and an external window inside. It's very odd.
It's weird, isn't it? It's like, it must... It's hard to explain, but it's definitely got outside, inside the basement. It looks like they've then built another building on top of it. So if it did get destroyed in the war and they rebuilt this on top of it, that would make sense. And it'd also tie in, again, using a bit of confirmation bias, that this little girl could have died in the fire when they got destroyed during the war and then got rebuilt. So it's just, like I say, it could be idiometer, it could be just subconscious, but that's the story we got, that's the answers we got. And then for my brothers then come 5 minutes later and say could smell smoke, like something burning rather than like a cigarette smoke. It was just a bit coincidental, but again, confirmation bias, because let's tie it all together so we can have this bit of evidence.
Yeah. Have you managed to do any research at the Public Records Office or anything to find out whether...
I have tried so much to get history in this house. I don't know when it was. I know it used to be one big house, and now it's like 12 apartments. We're not been able to find out when that happened. I paid me £3 with like the land registry to get like all the history on it. The only thing I could find was that a guy called Cyril, can't remember the second name now, he lived here in 1901. But I don't know if that was the original building, or literally not been able to find out anything like more concrete. Apart from the street next to us, like we're on the corner, so the street just there, I can see the house out the window. That was destroyed in the war and rebuilt it, obviously in the 40s. Apart from that, I've not been able to find anything. So we have had weird things happen. I'd say, yeah, it's Cyril. So that's the only name I've been able to connect. I know he lived there. He paid £16 rent for the year in 1901 in the census, I think it was on. But yeah, apart from that, not been able to find anything.
And just on about the weirdness of your basement. So I was having a conversation with somebody when I was at Ash's house on the telephone, and they were flying to the other side of the world to go on holiday. I spoke to him at the airport from Ash's house. Then we go down into the basement and I take a photograph of a road sign that's weirdly down in Ash's basement. Like when it look, and it was like of the country that this person was flying to. They're flying to Australia, and this sign said Queensland Road or something like that. So I took a photo and said, just gone into Ash's basement, which was creepy anyway, saw this. And they goes, that's where I'm going.
Wow.
I didn't know that. I just knew they were going to Brisbane, but I didn't realise that was in Queensland. And I was like, how odd's that I'd see it that day when I go down into the basement. And it was only because I sent the photo to the person that they said, that's where I'm going.
Synchronicity.
Proper odd. But that is a weird basement. It is a weird basement.
Oh,
It's
I want
very
to go
hard
and have
to-
a look now.
It's very hard to explain. There's weird like rooms that you put your head in. There was a step ladder in it, but the step ladder was as high as the little room it was in. It's like, why is there even a step ladder put up in that room? Because you couldn't even stand up as a human in it.
It's small, creepy. And the only way in to that room was through, like, they took bricks out the wall, so you could just climb in. And then, so there's no other way in or out apart from this made hole into this room, which is small, like less than 6 foot. Then there's a step ladder in there, propped up against the ceiling, but like you don't need a step ladder because it's not even.
It's the weirdest place. It really is weird. It's a weird place, but yeah. So I just thought I'd share that because that just adds to the mystique of this basement area.
Like I said, done a few times on Ouija boards and then had nothing. That was the only time we kind of got any sort of answers. And I think you asked the question, Greg, about is it a good tool to sort of use? I think with anything, when you're trying to capture any sort of evidence, it's having multiple sources, multiple bits of evidence. So if you can get like an answer to a question that nobody knew, then that answer turned out to be correct, and you also capture something on video at the same time or whatever, then like it's just one extra bit of evidence to add to anything else you get. So I think in that sense, it could be a good tool rather than using it sort of as itself, where, like you say, anything or anybody could manipulate it.
Yeah, and I think that going back to the Ouija boards, that's the thing, is trusting the people that use it and asking questions that you know they can't be manipulated. And I think that was one of the issues, like with parlor games when they first done it, and people were going round and like having seances and Ouija boards. That I think back then there were charlatans out there, definitely were, but it must have been something, because that wouldn't have been such an enduring type of device to use. So I know there's a lot of people recently that have tried to debunk the Ouija board, but I think it still could be a valid tool, because some people have, like you said, Michaela, you've got an experience there that you said there's no way that it could have been anything other than what it was. And I think when people have that moment, it's like the UFO side of it. A lot of people don't believe it, and then they see one, and then that's it. But then other people go, but there's no such thing. But
exactly. But I also think that it's very hard to measure Ouija boards. And also, I think they're very unreliable as a paranormal tool, because I had this amazing experience and I haven't had any experiences like that since with Ouija boards. So it's not something that you can rely on. You can't go in every time and go, I know that this is going to be a true representation of what's going on there. It's very hit and miss. And in my experience, more miss than hit. So how could you use that in a paranormal investigation? I mean, I think it's it's a really interesting tool, and I'm sure that I'm convinced that some people do get amazing information from them, but I don't believe that it's a reliable thing to use on a paranormal investigation.
So there is seemingly quite a large discussion in the moment, especially with the YouTube community, about debunkers versus fakes. So the debunking community on there are, I think, getting bigger and bigger, and they'll basically go through blatant fake videos or perhaps not so fake videos and go, here's how this is done, it's masking, and show you like the video editing tricks and stuff like that. And it's just one of those interesting things. It got mentioned on My Haunted Hotel somewhat recently, where he said he did an interview with our favourites, Lainey and Ben, and got a ton of crap for it. And he also mentioned a channel called Beardo Gets Scared. Now, Beardo Gets Scared seemingly isn't afraid to go hammer and tongs at some of the fake channels and just really go at them, which I kind of get. Because in his words, he's like, what they're doing is dangerous and it can be causing people mental health issues if they think that this could be happening in someone's house. And channels like Laney and Ben claimed that it was all real when it obviously wasn't. But I guess people actually believed it was real and whatever else. But I think that also opens the wider question of, is it okay to fake activity if you're very upfront with it and say that, yes, I'm faking activity, and yes, it's for entertainment purposes only?
No.
The reason I say that is because, like you just mentioned, there are a lot of people that will not hear that bit or not see that bit or choose not to see or hear that bit. And I think it is dangerous because there are a lot of people that put their faith in a lot of what these people say. They've got hundreds of thousands of subscribers, some of them, and they're saying stuff, and people at certain points take it as gospel without doing any kind of research into it. Now, there is a particular channel that I've seen. The first time I saw some of their stuff, I was actually quite intrigued. It was very Laney and Ben kind of style, things just happening off camera, not quite caught, but something thrown or something happened. And then as you watch the videos, as they go on, they couldn't be more fake. And I saw this clip on a Facebook group, I can't remember which one it was, some paranormal group, and they put the clip up, and people going, oh, it can't be a person because you wouldn't be able to move that far. So I said, well, no, it isn't a person because it's CGI. It's bad CGI as well, a very bad CGI. And people were believing it. And I was like, what is it that you don't know about CGI nowadays? And just on that note, there was a paranormal group this evening before we came on, and somebody put a post up saying, if you're constantly going to call out people and say everything's fake or an orb or it's dust or whatever, why are you even on this group if you don't believe? I'm like, well, I do believe, that's the thing, but you need to rule out everything that it could be, or what I think my exact words were, you have to rule out everything that it can be, and then once you've exhausted all of that, that's when you can speculate what it could be. Because I think there was a famous saying once that said, once you've ruled out everything normal, whatever's left, however improbable, has to be the answer.
Yeah.
So it's like it takes seconds to just do a bit of digging into these people. This particular channel is called Smug Puppy.
I don't know if you were going to mention the name, but now you have. Let's go in. They are horrendous because they've been called out by various debunking channels, and they've got the audacity to sit there and go, "We don't fake stuff. It's all real. How dare you call us out for faking stuff? You don't know because you're not here. It's all real. What's happening?" It is the shittiest faking videos you will ever see. It's always at like the most convenient of fucking angles, where it could blatantly be someone like stood behind a wall doing something, or it's just they're just atrocious. And the fact that they then sit there and go, "Oh, we don't fake stuff. It's you're the problem." And when they clap back at people, they're pretty vile about it as well. And then you look around their house as well. And I'm not going to mention their house necessarily, but there's a pretty fucking high spec gaming computer in that living room, which I'm pretty sure with some base level editing skills, which is definitely what they have, are base level.
I don't even think they had that high.
There's a pretty high spec gaming computer in that living room that you could quite easily run fucking Adobe Premiere or whatever the fuck they're using, right? Mm-hmm. Or After Effects or whatever. You could easily run it on that super high spec computer. So it's I mean, it's not even beyond the realms of possibility. It is, if that's what's happening, they're making shitty fake fucking paranormal videos and then claiming that they're real, and to the point that they deleted their fucking Facebook when they got called out on it, or deleted their YouTube, sorry, when they got called out on it, and then popped back up and were like, oh, we're back, guys, because we're not going to let the haters defeat us. And it's like, okay. And you're right, Greg. All right, you've got me going now. You're right. Like, people out there who believe that and go, oh, fuck me, the world's infested with demons, and I'm going to get strangled in my own home, or this is intriguing, I'll go on a ghost hunt, and then, oh, fuck me, this is boring because this isn't like X YouTube channel where it's going fucking poltergeist or something.
So I'm going to carry on a bit of Mike's rant, but I'm not because I told Greg this. I had a dream about these people, and the dream was that because the video that Greg had about where this shadow hand and this shadow face appears behind them at the top of the stairs. First time I just saw the video, so I think I tagged you in it, Greg, and say like, "What the fuck's this?" I laughed out loud, and I don't usually laugh out loud at videos. It's either I'm trying to see what it is, I'm trying to interested looking in it, or if it's fake, and it's like, I'll just scroll past. It's a fake video. The first time I physically laughed out loud when this head just appeared, like this shadow person head just appeared behind him, and then I saw Greg come in. Greg invited him like. Because he was in the comments, the guy making the video was in the comments defending it, and Greg was like, "Well, come on the podcast, talk to us about it, like defend it, like in an interview and stuff." And I had a dream that he was on the podcast, we were interviewing him, and I was laying into him, because the reason I mentioned because like say they defiantly say this is real, so to you, like blah blah blah, this is really happening, and when that happens, when it's clearly fake, because obviously people are having real experiences, and they're taking the piss out of people's real experiences, and people have real trauma from experiences happening in their homes or whatever, and to me they're taking the piss out of that. So that was my initial sort of frame of mind. Then the more videos I watched, I mean, they are trolling. It's
master level piss taking, isn't it? Like you're so self-aware of what you're doing.
100%. Like I watched a video today, and it's like he's in the kitchen, and then he's just talking. He's like shouting at this thing because he threw a bag of crisps at him or something stupid, and then there's a knife on the counter, and the knife like just vanishes. The next minute, the knife is thrown at him, and like it just misses him, and like a kitchen knife just misses him and goes into the door. And people in the comments are like, "Oh, you shouldn't rile him up. You're gonna get yourself hurt. You're gonna you're antagonizing it. You're gonna antagonize it. It's gonna get worse." I'm like, are you part playing along with it, or are you actually believing that this video, which is 0% chance, like in the paranormal, I would never ever say 100% this or that most of the time, because there's always that little bit, like that cardboard cutout alien St. Helens. Clearly cardboard cut out, but I lived 10 minutes away, so I went to the location, I investigated it, for that tiny percent chance that it could have been real, and it was on my doorstep. I couldn't pass up the opportunity. As these videos, and the more you watch, the more ridiculous. They are ridiculous. But then you see the comments, it's like, how? It's not even like I say, not even good CGI. It's not even like a bit of a shadow. It's clear crap, faking. How? The comments can't be real.
Thinking about it, there's two more points on that. It's weird we raised this because I heard about them a couple of weeks ago, and when they're fake, they're clearly trolling, whatever, fuck off. And then Patsy's dad messaged me yesterday morning going, "Oh, I've just seen this smell puppy on Facebook. Do you reckon that's real?" And I was like, "Mate, it's just not. Like, it's flat out not this, that, and the other." Also, I like the way they edit their videos in such a way that when something disappears or something, there's like a whoosh sound. And there's all these sound effects and shit all over it. It's like, How the fuck do you people not realise that this is fake? It's like fucking video editing 101.
Michaela, what are your thoughts? Have you seen any of their videos?
I haven't, but I've seen plenty of fake videos. There's this one guy that really annoys me. Now, you know when you've watched somebody's Facebook page quite a lot and you haven't saved it and you haven't remembered what their name is, and then you want to go and show somebody it and point it out, and you spend about 3 hours trying to find the thing and you can never find it again. He's actually been on Unexplained, Caught on Camera as well. Is this guy from Britain? He's kind of about 30, with short dark hair, and has all this horrendous so-called paranormal activity in his house. And there's some quite famous ones where he goes up into his loft and something throws boxes at him. It's
Really Haunted, maybe? Guy called Lee? I know a guy called Lee from a channel called Really Haunted. It's notorious for, again, being shit at faking and going like, oh, I have a priest come around once every week and exorcise the place. And it's like, no, you don't.
The stuff that he has, he was even going down his stairs. He had cream carpets in his house, remember? Quite a small house. Said his girlfriend had left him because the activity was so bad. And somebody it threw the box down the hatch from the loft at him on the stairs, and he's sort of going, oh, this is it, I'm leaving. And then when he came up on Unexplained, Caught on Camera, I was shouting at the TV going, how dare you get on the television when you are so fake? It makes me really angry, in short. It makes me really cross because, you know, it's hard enough to be taken seriously in this field. And the people who are doing a really shit job of faking stuff, why are you so desperate for fame that this is what you resort to? And it must take them a long time to do. How much of your life are you wasting, you sad little